Hi, this is Roland Jean Charles here from PMI JCM Realty Group, where we manage properties from an asset management perspective. As you know, an organization that manages properties from an asset management perspective, one of the things that we want to do is look at all areas of your business to determine, what's the best ways to help reduce your costs and increase your ROIs. And I think one of the areas that gets missed a lot is the tax. Now, most people don't think about it this way, but when you think about your largest expense during your lifetime, it's not real estate, it's not clothing, it's not food, it's taxes. Essentially, after start working and you're of a certain age, you start paying income taxes depending on what state you live. I'm in the state of Florida, so I don't pay any income taxes, but you still have to pay your federal taxes. And if you have an investment business where you are investing in real estate, then you have to pay property taxes on those on your properties. You also have to pay taxes on any capital gains, and essentially, when you have a business like rental properties, you have to pay taxes on those, right? And so the more you can reduce those taxes, the better off you're going to be. And so what I want to do today is, and you see the subject of the title of the article that I wrote is four things you should know about rental property tax deductions. And so what I really want to do today is I want to go through with you and discuss four key things that would give you just some simple insights that will help you reduce your tax liability. Now, I must say that I'm not your tax advisor. I'm not a tax advisor, and you should consult with your tax attorney or CPA if you have any questions about anything that I'm bringing up here. My only goal here is to educate you and to expose you to the possibilities, and then let you take it from there and determine the best ways to use this in your business or in your portfolio. Me as a property manager, my job is to expose you to and give you information that's going to um, help you with your rental management portfolio, right? So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing that I want to talk about is balancing appreciation and depreciation. And the way that I worded the topic is probably a little bit misleading, right? Because appreciation and depreciation kind of work hand in hand, right? So your appreciation is the value that the property accumulates over time, right? You really don't have to do anything for that to happen, right? As long as you buy a property in a market that is on an upswing or appreciating, then the property will appreciate. Now, it's very seldom that property values go down, but they do happen, and you got to be mindful of that as well. And you got to understand that, sometimes the best option is to liquidate the property before the value falls to a point where is no longer valuable to you, right? And if you remember the 2008 market crash, there were plenty of properties that values went down, right? It's the opposite of appreciation, depreciated basically. And so you lost value from that perspective. But for the most part, appreciation values go up, and that's going to be important later on. So hold on to that word appreciation, right? Then you have your depreciation, right? And mostly the value of depreciation, right? And you're like, depreciation, why is that valuable? Why is that good? Well, depreciation allows you to depreciate certain aspects of your property, right? So certain components like maybe your roof or your asset as a whole, you can depreciate that, right? So while the value of the property appreciates, certain components or aspects based on the tax law, you can depreciate. So while you can get more money for your property as the value goes up, you can depreciate certain aspects of your property on your taxes so that you pay less in income taxes or you reduce your tax liability because of the depreciation. So both appreciation and depreciation is valuable, and you have to know how to use both to get a good return on your investment, right? So so there should be some type of balance, but the point of the matter is understand your appreciation, understand your depreciation, and then use both of them to get a good return on your investment, right? So we're gonna leave that there, right? The next thing that I want to talk to you about is real estate investing and cash flow. Cash flow is king, right? If you are losing money on your properties, then you have a liability. You don't have an asset. And so you want to make sure you understand how to make sure your property is cash flowing, and how to ensure that as you go through your rental property management journey, that you're able to get those good returns on investments, right? So some of the things that I tell people sometimes is this: listen, if your tenant is paying for your mortgage, what do you care what your amortization is, right? What do you care if it's 30 or 40 years, right? Because your point is to make sure that you're getting a cash flow every month, right, with the lowest interest rate possible, right? And you bought the property at the best price possible, right? That's the goal of rental property management, to make sure you always have that cash flow. So if that's your goal, you shouldn't be afraid to have a longer amortization schedule. Now, there's some, you know, rental property management strategies that says, hey, I want to get the property free and clear as quickly as I can, right? And if you want to do that, then you just buy the property cash. But it's not wise to buy property cash, right? Because when you buy property cash, you put 100% of your money into it, right? To get all that money back out, and then on top of getting all that money back out, getting a good return on your investment, it becomes a much more difficult. It's much easier to, OPP, use other people's money, right? OPM, use other people's money, right? And so I say all that to say, pay attention to your cash flow. And if you have to get a longer amortization schedule to get that cash flow, it may be worth your while to explore that, right? Having the property paid off in 25 years or 20 years, having a cash free property is good. But in my mind, if the tenant is paying for the rent, paying for my mortgage anyway, I really don't care because I'm getting the appreciation. I can still depreciate my assets, right? So I get that tax basis. And then I'm getting the monthly income as much as I can in terms of cash flow. And, I'm going to talk a little bit about, later on about how that all comes together to get you even more money, right? So the point here is pay attention to your cash flow and find out ways to get your cash flow as high as you can, even if it means increasing your amortization schedule. That's my recommendation anyway, right? And then you have the 1031 exchanges, which help you transition from one property to the next without getting hit with the with taxes now, right? Which is a tax deferment. Um, um, Process that you can do, right? So keep all those things in mind when you are thinking about real estate investment and ultimately your cash flow. And so the next thing that I want to talk to you about is a tax-free deductions, right? And so what are these tax-free deductions? So there is a strategy within rental properties and property investment properties as a whole, where investors will pull cash out of an appreciation property. Remember when I talked earlier about appreciation and depreciation, right? Well, when you have a property, let's say the property is worth 100,000, you bought it for 100,000, right? And let's say you took a loan out, right? So you took a loan out for 80,000, right? 80%, right? You 20% you put down, so then you have $20,000 of equity, right? And then the house appreciates for another, $50,000, right? So the house is worth now 150. So now you have a total of, let's say, $70,000 of total equity. What some rental property owners do, and this is a strategy that I advocate, they pull cash out by doing term rate refi, right? Because after the property is seasoned, and seasoned means you hold the property for a certain amount of time, usually 6 months to a year. You do a term rate refi to reduce your terms, or change the terms of your rate, right? You can change the terms to a longer amortization schedule, what have you. That's an opportunity sometimes. Well, when you pull cash out, it's more than just a term rate, right? Because you're increasing your liability. But that's neither here nor there. The point is, when you pull cash out, that then is seen as a loan. So then you don't get taxed on it, right? You can use those funds for whatever you like. You can use it for buying other property. You can use it to live. You can use it for whatever you want. Because the point of the matter is, if you pull cash out and based on the debt service, you're still able to pay the mortgage with the rent that the tenant's paying, and you're still able to make that cash flow after you've pulled cash out, then that money's free to do whatever you want to do with it, right? It can be your own personal tax-free piggy bank. Some people like that strategy, some people don't. But my money is on using that strategy, because then every couple of years, when the appreciation gets to a point that you like, you can have that big, cash infusion whenever you like. But then you still get that residual income that you're getting from the cash flow every month, and it becomes, a nice to have. Now, the challenge with that is, at the time you want to sell the property, you may not have as much equity in it, right? You may not get as big a return. But that's if you're looking for that one big bang at the end of, the life cycle, of you buying, of you having owning that property. But if you're not waiting for, and to be honest with you, when you're ready to sell the property, it may have appreciated to a point where you still get cash out, right? So there's many ways to do it. The point is, you need to have a good strategy either way you look at it. But to me, pulling cash out, every once in a while for that big cash infusion, especially if it's tax free, I don't see anything wrong with it. I definitely advocate that. Then the last point that I want to talk to you about are opportunity zones and 2 or 3K loans, right? So the opportunity zones are for areas that, the federal government and city, state, county officials determine need development, right? And there's usually areas that are dilapidated, or areas that have not traditionally had a lot of funding, and you can call it devastation, or has not have a lot of development, or areas that are downtrodden, right, for lack of a better word. But sometimes rural areas get the opportunity zone designation as well. So it's not always because an area is downtrodden. Sometimes it is, just because the government wants you to invest in those areas. So they give you tax benefits to invest in those areas. And so the benefit is, when you have the opportunity zones, you get a great deal of tax benefits. The law that was passed not too long ago, the tax law that's passed not too long ago, definitely helps with that. But I think the key benefit that investors get is that with the 203K loans, and I'm not sure if this is still the case. I think it might be. I should have looked it up before I got on here. But usually 2 or 3K loans are for home buyers who plan to live in the property. It's not for investors. But within the opportunity zones, within the last tax law that was passed, they allowed investors to use those 2 or 3K loans that are usually used for homeowners who are going to live in the property. They allow you to use those same funds to fix up the property and then rent it out to somebody else, right? So it's a great advantage if you can, buy properties and invest in properties around an opportunity zone. That's a great advantage for you to have. Over where I am within the Uptown area, which comprises of Temple Terrace, the University of South Florida. The whole area is basically designated an opportunity zone. So there's a great deal of, no pun intended, opportunity for investors, small investors, to get in and find homes that need to be rehabbed, so you can get it for below market value, and then really fix them up with these 2 or 3K loans, which are really good loans that the government backs, that you get from banks, and then turn that around and either sell it to a someone who's going to live in it, or put a tenant in there. So those are the three things that I really, the four things, I'm sorry, that I really wanted to talk to you about. And all of them have more to them than I presented here. I don't have enough time to go into every aspect of these different um, these different opportunities, right, or these different topics. But if you reach out to me, I definitely want to speak with you um, about them, because not all of these investment tips would necessarily apply to your portfolio and real estate in your real estate ownership journey. But the idea of writing off expenses associated with property management partnerships, I mean, does sound pretty appealing. So definitely contact us. We are driven to keep Tampa rental property owners in the loop about the latest investment strategies and news. Tap Tap into the latest insights by signing up for our free webinar, in which we review how to streamline your rental property portfolio for maximum growth. This is a critical topic that we want to discuss and you won't want to miss. I mean, we're going to not only talk about this, we're going to talk about how to guarantee your rent even if the tenant doesn't pay. We're going to discuss how you show your rental properties 10 times in a week without going to the property only but once. There's a ton of different tips and tricks that you're going to learn that's going to be so valuable to your rental property journey, and it's all free, so you don't want to miss that. And then what we're also going to do, we want to make sure that you are in the loop with the conversation that we're having on our Facebook group. We're going to learn and we're going to share tips with other real estate investors and best practices, and we're going to have fresh ideas with savvy property owners. And if you're interested in more tailored advice to your particular property, put a meeting on my calendar. I am available to talk to any property owner that's looking to improve their portfolio in the Tampa metro area. And we give you all the information so you can do it yourself. But if you don't want to do it yourself and you rather have someone do it for you to free up your time, then definitely reach out to me. I can be reached at 813-333-9617 by phone. I can you can reach me at rcharles at pmijcmrealty.com. And you can also reach me at on my website at pmijcmrealty.com. Thank you and have a great day.